How you guys doing today? Hey, Johannes, how are you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Ready to rock and roll. I'm just sitting here. Where am I? I'm out the front of Meat Patty. So I was a bit naughty. I was down at the hot springs this morning in the peninsula of Melbourne. Had a bit of a hot sauna and a bit of a cold plunge pool. And I didn't quite manage to get back to the city in time. So we're doing it. A conversation from the car park today in some shopping centre halfway back to Melbourne. Already enjoying Melbourne. I certainly am. I just had a couple of days with a business group I've been in. We had like a 2.5-day retreat, which was amazing. Before we get started, guys, hey John, how you doing, mate? Jump in the chat and let us know what appealed to you about coming on today's session with myself and Johannes. What was it about today's session that you felt that you absolutely had to see, had to experience? Just jump in the chat and let us know. What I'm going to do is put my bag up here and get a bit more heightage. There we go, that's better. I don't see all my bat rolls from my chin. All right. Morning, lads. Johannes is a good-looking dude. He is a good-looking dude, John. We're both good-looking dudes. So just let us know quickly what you'd like to get out of it, and then we'll jump straight in. Dan, yeah, mainly Johannes, charisma. Always want to hear the tribe stories, yeah. So we're definitely going to deliver. Just let us know if there's anything else. So the way that we're going to run this is me and Johannes are going to have a conversation. I'm going to drill down deep. There might be some tears. There might be some laughter. No, probably not. And what we'll do is at all throughout the conversation, you guys have got any questions around anything at all, write them in the chat as you go. So as the questions come up, as small or as large as they might be, write them in the chat. And then what we'll do at the end is we'll jump in the chat and we can go through and it'll prompt us to kind of remember what you would like us to share. Vanessa said, well, I'm a control freak and not great at opening up, so hoping this may help. Yeah, totally. And I really wanted to, I suppose we always pick the interviews for different reasons in the tribe, and you know, some are because people have just gotten incredible results, we understand why, others because people master a certain behavior or characteristic or belief that we see is successful. And there's different flavors you'd notice through these hot seats that we bring to the table. And today I'm pretty excited to have Johannes on the call. Johannes has been with us for a bit over 12 months now. Runs a phenomenal marketing agency that mainly focus and specialize in Google AdWords and Facebook advertising. And Johannes, since I've met him, has been someone that I've seen has been quite consistent. And really taken on board the principle around progress over perfection. You know, ensuring that we keep moving the needle forward, ensuring that he keeps taking a step forward, getting out of the way. You know, I caught up with you a little while ago, mate. We spoke around how you're kind of working about an average 30-hour week. You take a lot of time out, personal time. You've got a young family as well, and you've managed to grow a pretty incredible team, both in-house and offshore, that manage some outstanding results for your clients. So before we really kick things off, mate, why don't you share with everyone watching or listening today, specifically what it is that you do, and maybe a little bit around your background, how it was you came to opening up CloudFlex.
Yeah, well, basically, like as you said, we mainly manage Google and Facebook ads for our clients, and at the moment we like to work with e-commerce clients and get pretty good results there, and do lead generation where we're focusing on property lead generation and lead generation for real estate agents, but then everything in between. So we've like basically started the business. Like I was working for a nonprofit up in Townsville, and they needed more volunteers coming through, and so I volunteered to figure out Google, and that was in 2008, 2009. And so started playing with Google, Facebook landing pages, and basically quadrupled their number of leads within a few months. And from that, they doubled the size of their nonprofit. And I had some business friends on the sunny coast, and then I told them about it, started doing some work for them. And then from there, went from being working in a non-profit and doing like medical work up in PNG and youth work in Mount Isa and that sort of stuff, to just managing Google and Facebook ads, and started the CloudClicks in 2012.
Was it ever your desire to open up your own business, or to go into the marketing agency space?
Like I've always liked business, and I've always had sort of wanted to run a business or something. I kind of fell into advertising in Australia, but yeah, I've always wanted to have my own business, I guess.
Yeah. And is it everything you hoped it would be?
some days. I mean, the way we've built CloudClicks, or the way I've built CloudClicks with my wife, is that we can be sort of work from anywhere, basically. And I think running like a digital agency affords us a number of things that we couldn't do if I had a job or if I had a brick and mortar business. And so that's been definitely what I've hoped for. But then there's other things where I'm like, it's just a lot harder. No one tells you about it before you start the business.
Do you think that if someone sat you down before you started your business and said, hey, here's what the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years is going to look like in business, do you think that you would have still embarked on starting your own business and going down this path if someone had to share with you, this is what's going to happen, what it's going to be like?
I mean, it's hard to answer because it sort of depends what the alternative is, right? Business is hard, but having a job is hard as well. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter what you do. There's always challenges. So it depends what you focus on. I think that's sort of what I've learned in the last year with you guys as well. Is like, what is it that you focus on? You know what I mean? Yeah.
I actually love your perspective and love where you went with that question, because it's a common question that I ask. And, you often see entrepreneurs that say, well, hell yeah, like even if I'd have been told, I wouldn't have listened, I would have gone down that path. And what I love about that is that you actually took a moment to consider it, and you almost weighted it against another option. It's like, well, depends what the other option is.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people like have this perception that working a job is safe, that working for somebody else is safe because it's consistent income. They haven't got to go and chase work. But in actuality, having your own business is safer than working for somebody else, because you're solely responsible of whether or not you get paid.
Yeah.
Right. We're solely responsible for the results we get in a business. And that's something that I suppose want to share with the people watching this today, is that I see that a lot about you. And I think that that's a success criteria I see with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, is that they've got a high level of like self-accountability and responsibility for both their failures and their successes. It's like you see a lot of people that if they succeed, they take the rap, and if they fail, they blame other people. And I see with you that if you fail, you kind of take it on board yourself. And if you succeed, the success is both yours and your team's. Yeah. Tell me, like, if you look back at where you're at a few years ago when you first started in business, like, where was your mindset at? Like, if you look at how the business was interacting then with yourself, with your team, with your clients, with the environment, and now, like where would you say that you were a few years ago?
Like a few years ago when I started the business, like the whole point of like what we're trying to achieve was to work from anywhere and not have people to deal with. So I was just wanting to run everything myself, which kind of worked well for about 6 months, and then you realize that you have to do everything yourself. And so basically it's, so what was the question again?
Well, that's a good point. I suppose that's where a lot of people start, is that the typical entrepreneur spirit is a little bit the lone ranger, the rule breaker. And you start off thinking you have to do everything yourself, which you mentioned lasts about 6 months.
Yeah.
But if you look back at your beliefs, like what were your beliefs around success back then? What did you believe that needed to happen? Or what did you believe about being successful in business, 2 years ago?
I think, like, because I'm originally, like, I'm a brickie, right? Like I did an apprenticeship as a bricklayer, did volunteer work, started the business because I was just wanting to work for myself, do my own thing. And so like from the start, like I felt like I was responsible for for my own future, like creating the future that I want. And so
Yeah.
like even at the beginning, like I spend a lot of time educating myself, and I feel like that's always been a priority, is to grow as a person, grow as a business owner, learn the things that you don't know about, and then figure out
Yeah.
how to use that for your own, to advance the business, advance yourself, I guess, and make a living.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the benefit, yeah.
No, go. Please finish.
I think the benefit, because I was working in a non-profit, so I was used to living off of very little money.
Yeah.
So starting the business initially, like we made like nothing, like we make more in a month now than we made the first year. And it's somehow we managed, you know, to get by, but it wasn't a big deal. Like if I would have come from a big job and then jumping into starting a business and starting from zero would be a lot, the transition would be a lot more difficult. And I think so
Yeah.
the other way was quite easy to, all right, it's my show, I can do whatever I want, need to pay the bills, how am I going to pay the bills? And then figure out
Yeah.
what skills I have that I can use to do that, and then grow it from there.
It's interesting what you shared, because I seem to, there's been a theme around some conversations I've been having lately with different people, and it's around what balance looks like, right? A lot of people aim to achieve balance, and I'll connect this to what you've just shared in a second. A lot of people aim to achieve balance, which they believe is this kind of like straight line. And in actuality, balance is more a harmonic rhythm, right? Ups and downs, ups and downs. I met this guy a couple of days ago, owns a agency, actually, like they're doing like $20-30 million here in Melbourne. And he said that what he realized is that he would get bored in business, so he'd attract chaos subconsciously to keep him busy. And it was like this bit of a rhythm. Like he'd get a lot of success, it'd become easy, he'd get bored, so he'd attract chaos to take him back down. He said, so what I've learned over the time is to actually force the chaos upon me. Because when I force the chaos upon me, I'm in control of it. Whereas when I allow like the universe to provide it for me, I'm not in control of it. It's always a shock. And what I found is this balance is kind of like the ups and the downs, the ups and the downs, the ups and the downs. And so the more that we can start to realize that, the smoother that our journey can actually become as business owners.
Yeah. Like I was actually looking at sort of the growth of our business over the last 7 years, and like overall, like the business keeps growing consistently year over year. But then you've got times in there where it's like a month or two or whatever, and you just have a big dip, and then you just sort of work it. So as you're saying, like it goes up and down. It's not a static growth. And so it's just interesting, depending on where you're at on that curve, like you're either super stoked or super stressed out. When the big scheme of things, if you take a step back, like things improve and you keep growing and growing. But sometimes it's hard to see when you're in the weeds, I guess.
Yeah, well, it is. And often what lets us down is this perception of where we should be at. And we end up getting fixated on where we believe we should be at and where we're at, and not being there, that we lose gratitude for the journey. We project ourselves out into the future. And when we project ourselves out in the future, we can't possibly enjoy where we're at now. And the point I was making about this harmonic balance is that, you know, a lot of the so-called gurus share with us that we need to have an abundant mindset in business to succeed, right? And it's like, you just have to have an abundant mindset. You've got to, fake it till you make it. You've got to, always think positive and put yourself out there. And although I agree with that 50%, because balance is not this, right? And we can't get rich collecting one-sided coins. We don't live on an earth where the sun shines all day, every day. Plants wouldn't actually survive if that was the case. Like plants need the darkness as much as they need the lightness. And so as much as we need to have an abundant mindset in business and in life, we also need to have 50% an aspect around scarcity. What the difference is, though, is where do we choose to have that scarce mindset? Is a scarce mindset around not believing that there's work out there, or believing that we have to lower our prices to compete with our competitors? Or is a scarce mindset around how we manage our money? And the reason that I wanted to point this out is what you shared, is that in the beginning, you learned to deal with not much, right? And what I've actually seen is some of the most successful entrepreneurs have maintained that mindset around money. And what I mean by that is I've set up things like your Profit First methodology, or, Dee Martini talks about it, Richest Man in Babylon talks about it, where there's these automatic allocations into buckets. And when you do that, you're limited to some degree of the bucket that you're allowed to spend. So you condition your mind to see this set amount. In order for that to change, the whole revenue needs to change, but you're still banking profit. You're still paying tax. You're still doing these other things, but you set yourself up into a framework where you constantly feel like you, in many ways, are driven to create more because you haven't expanded your spending habits along with the growth of your business. Like, how have you noticed over the last few years, your mind has shifted around money and around wealth?
I think the main thing that I've realized in the last few years is what you said, like the automating into the buckets. And I've done that, like obviously reading the, what is it called, the Barefoot Investor, and had that personal finance setup. Like, I don't know, it's 80% of what he's saying plus whatever. And that's really good on the personal side. And then on the business side, the profit first, which I've kind of attempted a year or 2 years ago and kind of abandoned it, and then just reinstating that again. And I think that sort of the less you have to think about it, the more successful the easier that's going to work.
Yeah.
So I'm getting distracted by the bird in the back.
As long as it doesn't land on my shoulder, then
so I think it's sort of that figuring out those automations and implementing that and sticking to it. And I think that's sort of what I'm, because if you haven't done it in business, like that's sort of the tricky part when you go from just spending the money that comes in to allocating it. I find that's quite the transition to make.
Well, I recently just moved into a new place in Melbourne, and we went to go shopping for furniture and things like that. And like, I lasted a couple of hours before I got decision fatigue. And, you hear stories of like Mark Zuckerberg, that the reason he wears the same clothes all day, every day, so he doesn't have to use part of his decision-making capabilities on what he's going to wear. He can use that decision-making capabilities on things that actually matter in the business. So coming back to what you shared, it's really important that I feel that we automate as much as we can in business. And that's not just with the way that we delegate and move money around, but the way that we manage resources, the way we manage systems and processes and team, because the more of that we can automate, the less of that we have to utilize our precious resource or our thinking capability to manage on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I think,
there you go.
I was just thinking, like, one good example from our business is we've implemented your winning the week meeting structure. And that was probably like 6 to 9 months ago that we've done that. And that one thing, it's the same meeting every week, the same formula. And since we've implemented that, like, the meeting's been so much more productive, and we're obviously the last bit, like, you rate the meeting. When we started, like, we would rate the meetings 3, 4, 5, and now it's on average 7, 8, 9. And we're just getting shit done and just don't get distracted. Like, you stay focused, and it's literally a piece of paper. It's the whole system, and it's so easy, but it just has it's so much leverage to that 1 hour a week.
Yeah. Well, I think life throws us enough adversity and enough challenges and enough variety that, the simpler we can keep business, the better. And I think that to me is a key to having successful businesses, is how do we simplify things as much as possible? Like, we don't need a million different unique marketing strategies to generate leads. We just need a couple that work really well and we can really dial down on. I want to just jump back to your mindset for a second, because I think that it's there's a lot of value there. Like, what shifts have you noticed within your beliefs, within the way that you see yourself as a partner, as a leader, as a boss, as an entrepreneur? Like, what significant shifts have you noticed in your mindset that you can share with the people watching, listening today?
Significant shifts. I think, like, one of the things is, like, I feel like I'm responsible. So if things don't go wrong, things don't go right, like, it's my responsibility to figure out why that is, rather than just troubleshooting it. So taking the time to investigate it and put a system in place if there isn't one. Yeah. If there is a system and there's problems, then there's another issue with that, but you can then pinpoint what the problem is. Yeah. So I think that's one of those things is not focusing on the problem per se, but putting your effort into the solution, because you can just get worked up about a problem,
Yeah.
and fix the problem, but not fix it down the road. So like, I think it's just focusing on implementing solutions that avoid that problem in the future.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that gone off of that is with like what you're focusing on. Like, for example, like we had this, like in January, we've lost a bunch of clients, and then we're just
I remember
focusing
I got
on,
the emergency phone call.
yeah. Well, it's just a weird time of the year. And like, anyways, doesn't matter why. But the thing is, I had sort of the choice, like by default, you focus
Well,
on what you
we should actually talk about why in a second, because what happened was what you asked for, yet dealing with the result of what you asked for was a different thing. So we will like just flag that one, and we'll come back there.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the like initially, if you lose a client or there's a problem, you focus on that. And so for me, like, because we had a chat, I think with Chris, and we're like, we need to focus on what we know, because you attract more what you think about more, I guess. And so just focusing on, rather than dealing with the clients that had gone or whatever didn't work out, focusing on the new leads that were in the pipeline, bringing new leads in, and focusing on growth rather than on loss.
Yeah.
And so basically turned, it was just a...
Well, the result is that you actually have more clients now than what you had in January, and you've significantly increased your average sale per client as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But there's a gap between there of like, oh shit, I'm losing clients, to now going, I'm actually way better off than what I was back there. And like you said, it's like where our focus goes, our energy flows, and our results then show. And for you, like I'd love to share with the tribe that are here with us today, is that, you know, you made a decision for your business. You had some pretty firm goals around going, okay, well, my staff are working half capacity. We can double our business. And if we double our business so far, because you're trading time for money, essentially, right? You're in a service-based business, time for money. If we double the business, we're going to look at this much revenue, this much profit with the current structure. If we can find a way to double the business and increase our average sale along the way, our result is exponential of where it could be.
Yeah.
And what we identified was that there was a lot of clients, like white label clients, that were low revenue and were actually consuming a lot of your time and energy and effort. And that was preventing you from working with A-grade clients. And we speak about this a lot, as you know, with the Game Changers. It's like, how do you work with the Wilburys? How do you work with those A-grade clients that you know, happy to pay, play, and stay? And so you kind of put out there that this is the direction that you wanted to go. And no sooner as you had that thought and created that plan, these lower tier clients, the ones that were creating all the issues, were the ones that dropped off.
Yeah.
And I've seen this time and time again that our thoughts are so powerful, and especially the more and more in tune we become with ourselves, the more powerful and creative our thoughts become. And the moment that you made that decision, these clients, you didn't even need to fire them; they just dropped away.
Yeah.
Yet there's this part of us that then freaks out because the experience that you've had in that environment and those clients have been what you've known for a long time. And so realistically, all that happened was you're reminded of what you thought about and what you were creating. And the moment that shift happened inside of your mind, which is quite quick, you then attracted a bunch of new clients that were at a higher price point, that were better quality clients, that are easier for you to deal with, and that are much better to do business with.
Yeah.
And you go.
It's funny because even though like it's been a couple months and there's no repercussions from it in the big scheme, everything's good. Just talking about it still sort of gets my blood. Like, I don't know, it's still weird and scary that it, you know what I mean? Like, because they're gone. I don't know, like it's like a year ago, 50% of our business was from white label agencies. And it's basically gone.
Well, I was having a chat to a guy this morning in the plunge pool, and did a little exercise where, you know, I was like, what are your goals? Like, where do you want to get to? And he shared, and I was like, he's like, they're all materialistic. And I said, well, that's okay. What's the emotional feeling behind? Because we always aim to get materialistic objects most of the time, right? Because it's very easy for us to conceptualize. Yet really what we're wanting at a conscious or unconscious level is the emotional experience of what we perceive, not believe, perceive that those materialistic objects or experiences will give us.
Yeah.
So I said, just feel how it feels. And immediately I felt and noticed that there was a bit of a response or reaction or a clenching or a tightening of feeling it. And I said, what's that you're feeling? He's like, well, anxiety, my heart's pumping. And I was like, that's what's stopping you getting them. It's not that it's not possible for you to get what you want, because, you know, it's very easy to see people around the world that are wealthier than us, that have better relationships than us, that are having a different quality of life than us. What stops us is not whether or not that exists in life for us to have it. What stops us is actually the emotional response inside of us, the belief, the alignment, the feeling. And you share what you share there, like there's still a bit of stuff around that. And you know that the experience you're having last year is not the experience you want to have. Yet because you had that experience for so long, it's comfortable, right? You know what to expect. Even though it might be a shitty experience and not so nice experience, you're familiar with it, right? You know what to expect. What you don't know is something else. You know, what you don't know is what that other meal tastes like. Like I got brought up on 3 veg and meat, right? That was mum's signature dish, and it was amazing, right? It was good. But then, you know, I started to meet women and date, and we'd go out for restaurants, and I'd be picking food off the side of my plate, not eating it, or I wouldn't order certain dishes. I wouldn't eat mushrooms and capsicums, and wouldn't drink red wine, all this sort of stuff. And it was because it was so unfamiliar. It was so unknown for me what it would taste like, that I assumed or believed that it didn't taste right. Even trying it didn't taste right. Yet it becomes so uncomfortable being in these social situations, being this young child in many ways, picking this stuff off my plate, that I began to eat it to fit in with social norms, to where now it's comfortable, to where now I enjoy that. Right. Yeah. So if we look at that in the context of your business, or where people might be at the moment, like what would your advice be to people that are wanting to level up, that are clear of where they want to go, or want to go to the next level, yet they're feeling that bit of anxiety or fear that you've been feeling? What would your advice be to them? What would your advice be to yourself 6 months ago?
I guess the advice is just sort of being aware of your thoughts, and like what you're thinking, and how your brain's working, I guess. Because I think once you start picking it apart and looking at your responses, and because I guess, I don't know, it's like 80-90% is subconscious, like we just operate. But then once you start looking at it, it's like, how am I operating? How do I want my day to look like? How do I want my business to look like? And put those things down, and start just in your mind on paper, creating your ideal future. I think that's a pretty powerful exercise to start identifying some of those unconscious things that you're thinking and going on. And then once you start seeing patterns, like it becomes easier to make changes and be more and create your future, I guess. And
I like that. I don't think we, myself included, spend enough time challenging our assumptions and challenging our beliefs. And it's because our beliefs are so ingrained in us that we don't even think to question them. Like, we don't even think to question the notion that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or that the food pyramid, or any of this other sort of stuff that's not factual. Like it's been created over time to such that we believe it to be reality. We believe it to be reality, so we stop questioning it. And I watched this movie a little while ago, and there's this line that I thought was so brilliant, and it was that the perception of reality is realer than reality itself. Because our reality is only ever our perception of reality. It couldn't possibly be reality. Your perception of life is very different to mine, is probably different to everyone else watching this and listening to this today. Right? And once we start to spend that time to actually question, like, oh, I can't find good stuff. Well, is that actually the case, that I can't find good stuff, that good stuff don't exist? Or is that my belief? Oh, you've got to struggle to succeed in business. You've got to work hard in business. Is that a reality? Or is there other people out there that are succeeding in business that aren't struggling, that aren't working 80 hours a week? And like you said, the moment that you stop to question it, you actually start to open up space for a new possibility to be created, to have a new reality. If you were to give advice to your 10-year-old self, 12-year-old self, like if you were to be able to go back in time and give that kid some advice based on all that you know now, what advice would you give him?
What? A 10-year-old kid?
Yeah, 6, 10, 18, just an earlier version of you. If you had to kind of go back in time and instill upon him some of your wisdom, knowledge.
I think because a 10-year-old kid is like, there's so much they don't know, and so many. I feel like my advice would be, and I don't know if this is the right answer or not, just do what you want to do, be who you are. Just don't care what people think.
Yeah. Yeah. Let go of your perception of what other people think about you.
Yeah.
What other people think about you is none of your business.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And so I've got another couple of questions that I want to ask. We're doing really well for time, which is great. And then by all means, too, I'd love you to share anything you feel to share. The first question, though, like, what's the biggest failure and fuck up you've had in business? Be honest.
I think the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know if that's the biggest fuck up or not, but I was like 2014, 2015. I was doing like some subcontracting work for a video company. They're wanting to branch into running ads for their clients. And so I talked to the owner and we sort of discussed a partnership. He's like, well, I don't know you. And so he talked me into like, let's come up with a partnership and discuss it in a few months. And in the meantime, you'll just give me a really good rate. So I was working on a really good rate as a casual. And we were supposed to have a discussion a month in, that didn't happen, and something else happened. And next thing I know, was like 6 months that I've done work for this guy with him, no intention of ever doing a partnership deal, not paying super, and like basically fully underpaying the services that I was providing. And so in hindsight, like that cost me 30 grand in 6 months of just time spent building someone else's business for no return. And so it just didn't work out. So I mean, it wasn't I wouldn't say it was a fuck up. It was a good experience because I learned a lot of things. I don't know. I think I look at, I think it's generally like if you learn something, it's not a fuck up because you know better next time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's either a lesson or learning. I'd love to know, like, comment below, what's your biggest mistake in business? What's your biggest mess up? Even though you can see it maybe in a positive sense right now as a success because you learned from it. What's the biggest mistake that you feel you made in business, or the biggest failure that you had? All right. So fast forward to now. Like, if you look at yourself and look at your business now, what do you see as been some significant changes in the last 12 months, and what knowledge, what experience can you instill upon the people watching this today?
I think the main thing that I'm sort of realizing is focus. And like 12 months ago, and even to this point, like I find it really hard to just focus on just one niche or even two niches. I feel like, because we can, I don't know if that was in one of the webinars or podcasts that you did with the guy where it's like you're talking about niching and why people or businesses have problem niching out or just focusing on one niche. Because in theory, every business owner is my client, right? Like if you have a business and you need more customers, you're a potential client. If I say I only work with e-commerce stores and real estate agents or whatever, I sort of limit myself, and it feels pretty scary because now instead of every business owner, only a select few are potential customers.
Yeah.
And it's really scary to step into that. But as you do it, you become better. You can focus your product a lot better and provide a better service. And I think that's...
What do you think is scary about that? Why do you think so many people have a hard time like niching right down on their offer, who they're serving?
Well, because you kind of... so the question in the back of your mind is, if I just go down that road and it doesn't work out, like I'm stuck. Like I'm saying I'm doing service X, or I'm working with whatever kind of business. If you work with every business, there's so many potential clients, like there's so much choice. who you could be working with in theory. So it's easy to picture that. And I feel like along with that is focusing on like 2 or 3 things in the quarter, like what you guys do with the sprint, the project planner, sprint planner, whatnot.
Opulence operating system.
Because again, like it's like for me, like there's so many, there's a million things that I want to fix. Like we need to do work on the website, on the landing page, and our advertising and client work and reporting, and there's the systems, and like there's a million things that you could be spending your time on. And if you try to focus on everything, very little gets actually done. You get most projects at 30% or 50% done. But once you start just focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 and block out everything else that's distracting, like you get the day-to-day stuff done, but you make it a priority to work on the 1 or 2 big projects, you actually get shit done, and things start to change. And again, it's a scary thing, because if you're focusing on those 1 or 2 projects, all this other important stuff doesn't get done in theory. And it's a scary
It doesn't
thought.
get done now. It's not that it doesn't get done, it just doesn't get done now.
Yeah, but it's, you know what I mean? Like it feels good to be busy and you feel like you're working on a million things. Even if nothing gets done, you're busy, you're doing stuff.
Does it really feel good though? Like, I don't know about you, but I think the immediate gratification is like, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff, but there's nothing worse than the shit feeling at the end of the month that there's been no momentum, that things haven't moved forwards.
Yeah, I mean, in review it feels shit, but in the like, for example, yesterday, like I've got a bunch of leads coming in from like some Facebook campaigns that I'm running, and so I'm trying to call them within 24 hours and follow up the ones from the previous days, give them another call, plus follow up the potentials where I've sent out some proposals. So I've made like 10 or 15 calls. I'm like, I just didn't want to make another call. So next thing I know, like I didn't even think about it. I was just tinkering on, I don't even know what it was, like something in the CRM, like I was trying to fix something. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why am I, but it felt good. You know what I mean? Like you're doing something that's working on the business, whatever. But in reality, I was just avoiding making another call. And so I'm like, so close the window, whatever. It's not even part of any 3 months plans. It was just something that I was tinkering on.
Yeah.
And it just felt good in the moment. You know what I mean? If I look back at the end of the week and I see how much time I wasted on avoiding making calls, like then it feels shit. But in the moment, it's a nice distraction, I guess.
Yeah. Alex Schaffen put it really well on the podcast we did together, and he talks about, you know, what entrepreneurs love the most is a feeling of momentum. And he said the only way that we get into momentum is to be clear on where we're starting from, be clear on where we're going, and have KPIs along the way that let us know whether we're on track or off course to get to the destination, and have a highly accountable team, like have a team that's accountable for their part of the plan.
Well, like another thing, like I'm trying to work on an ebook. I was like, for whatever reason, I decided I'm the only one that can, like I've never done an ebook, like created it. Like I've got the content, and I started setting it up, and I'm like, what am I doing? And so I just sent a message to Stephanie, who's working for me, because she does that sort of stuff. I'm like, can you just do this ebook? Here's some points how I want it done. But it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I should do it. I can do it. It'll be fun. I don't have to make calls, whatever. So
So what have you learned then around leverage? Like if you look at that as a perfect point, like what have you learned around your ability to leverage yourself and leverage a team to keep growing? Because, you know, it's easy enough when you first start a business to be able to do everything yourself. Easy enough. You're wearing a million hats. Yet to scale a company, you know, first of all over the mil mark, and then second of all over the 10 mil mark, you need to become a master of leverage and letting go of control. I think someone shared before that they're a control freak. It's like your ability to let go of control is your ability to scale your business.
Yeah. I think what I'm learning is sort of like, for example, the task audit that you guys, I don't know if there's a video on how to do it, but I find that's a good one to sort of look back and figure out what it is that I'm doing every week. and then what's the things that I can get off my plate. And so a lot of it is just because you can, like, there's a right way and a wrong way to delegate jobs. So if I just tell someone to do something and it doesn't get done and I don't follow up, then like that was useless. Or if I get someone to do something and don't do anything with it and sort of leave it at 80%, like it's just sort of the discipline to sit down and be deliberate in what needs to be achieved and have like specific outcomes with timelines and then follow up on that. So I think it's just for me learning what are the things that I should be delegating and what are the things that I still need to do. Like, for example, like what I've just implemented with the team or trying to implement is sort of have regular strategy sessions as just with my Facebook guys and look at accounts that are going well and accounts that are struggling and sort of brainstorm ideas. And that's why I can impart like 10 years experience and sort of come up with a big picture and just punch out a bunch of ad ideas and targeting ideas. And then they can go back and implement it rather than me spending a day doing it all myself. Like that wastes a lot of time where I really only need 30 minutes at the beginning. The team can do 6-7 hours worth of work. And then I do another 30 minutes at the end and just double check it and basically gets a better result.
Yeah, there's delegation through abdication, which is like, hey, just go and do this. And it's like you just handball something on. And then there's delegation, which is, hey, here's what we want. Here's why we want it. Here's the start, here's the end, and here's how you're going to know that you're doing it successfully. Report back to me once done. Yeah. And you have something in place that reminds you, should they not follow things through. Yeah. And there's a nice principle that we tend to work with when we are delegating, which is like 90-10, 60-40, 10-90. And it's like in the beginning, you should be doing 90% of it and they should be doing 10% of it. And then second time round, you do 60, they do 40. Third time round, you do 10, they do 90. Yeah. And it's a process. And once people learn how to communicate with you and learn your style and learn what you want, you don't need to go through that process because you say, hey, do this. And they know how to go through that because you've trained them that way. But in the beginning, it's our responsibility as business owners to train them how to treat us, how to do things. What did you learn? Just to come back to tie the point, what did you learn around that? It's like the situation this week where you found yourself just mucking around on the CRM system and not making calls. Like, what was the core learning out of that? When you realized that about yourself, that you were just wasting time?
Well, I think the core learning is to be mindful and to watch for it. Because again, if you're sort of stepping back and watching what you're doing, then you can make a change. So I think my nature, it just looks for the easy way out, I guess, or like looks for the things that you like to do, like where it feels good, like you get something done. Where with
is it the things that you're in control of? Is it doing things that you're in control of that can give you that like immediate dopamine hit?
Yeah, probably. Because if you go to the CRM and you fix something and it starts working, that feels good. If you're making a call and you get told off or whatever, like it's...
Or no one picks up.
Yeah.
That sucks. So our team make about $4,000 a week and maybe speak to 100 people.
Yeah, fine. Well, yeah.
So remember that next time you go to make dials.
Yeah.
Or find someone else to do it.
Well, that's sort of that's the plan. Like at this point, like another thing, because the reason I'm making all those dials again is because I've tried to have one of the guys on my team make some of those calls and the conversion rates dropped. We weren't monitoring it closely enough, so we didn't even know. And basically, as soon as I picked it up, like conversion rates went from 10% back to 30%. And so it's just, I mean, again, that was one of those things where you just delegated and didn't check in on how things are going.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, which is a good point, right? And I don't know, like we do tend to make the same mistake a few times often before we really learn it. What do you think has been the fundamental belief or that defining moment, or the thing that you've understood and learned that's brought you to the success that you got now? Because you guys are in a position now where you're profitable, you're growing well, you're working your 30 odd hours a week, things are like cruisy. You've got a great team and culture. You mentioned the team meeting rhythms and things are in place. Team are performing well. Like, what do you think has been like the vehicle that's got you from where you were before, where you said that you're now making in a month what you're making in a whole year before? Like, what do you think's been the vehicle that's taken you from there to where you are now, if you could put it into one sort of sentence or two sentences? What is it?
I think the main thing is focus. Like, so you've got a picture of where you want to be, and then you focus in how to get there. Because, yeah, like I can expand on that, but that's sort of
expand it. Share.
Because originally, like when I first started the business, it was I just wanted a one-man show, do it all by myself, and then that changed. So the vision changed of what I wanted the business to look like. And so at this point, like what I want the business to look like is to have 2 staff for each position, or 2 team members for each position, and get them to like 85% capacity. And so having that picture is like, all right, if I want 2 people, we need X amount of clients. We need these kind of systems. And so it gives you sort of the picture where I want the business in a year or 2 years time. And so if you work from that point, what you want the end product to be like in a couple of years, like I think that's a good way to get there, rather than just going day to day and just do what comes across your desk, I guess.
Yeah, take control and take charge of your time. So get clear on the North Star, get clear on where you're going, what you'd like, and then reverse engineer it back to now, and be focused on putting the things into place now to get you there.
Because if you remember, like when we talked the other day, like there's all these opportunities that come across, and I'm like, this is an epic opportunity. We could make millions of dollars if it works out. But it's not where you want the business to go. It takes you in a different direction that may or may not work out. And so it's just good to have a goal that you can, and even if you have that goal, you get distracted because it's a shiny object.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of our role as CEO or as business owner, is to really filter out the noise. There is just so much noise out there right now, and the more successful you become in business, the more opportunities that roll across your desk as well. Like, it's just a natural thing that happens. The more that you shine, the more that things are attracted to you.
Yeah.
And opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. And what I see really moves our business forwards the fastest is not the opportunities that we say yes to, but actually opportunities we say no to.
Yeah.
Because every opportunity costs you an investment of resources, time, money, people, whatever it is. And as a business owner, we're basically an asset manager. We're managing the assets of our company, managing our time, our people's time, our finances, and our IP. The more successfully we can manage those parts of the business, the faster and more profitable we're able to grow. Yeah.
Like I feel like it's almost the less you do, the faster your business can grow. Because the more you divert your focus, the less you get done. Yeah,
it's a good point, but like close to impossible to execute.
Oh yeah.
And when I say close to impossible, it's not impossible. That's where we should be aiming. It is freaking hard though. It's really hard. Yeah. All right. So before we wrap up and take some of the questions, like, is there anything you'd love to share with the tribe? Like anything that you'd like to share that you've noticed, that you've understood?
Like for me, like specifically to the game changers, like the 2 things that I think that are helping me the most is sort of the mindset stuff. Because that's not something like usually you look for how can I do my marketing better? How can I do systems better? But none of that stuff helps if you've got the wrong mindset, because you sabotage everything that you try to do. And so I think for me, that's super important and super valuable. And then along with that, because obviously the Perth events coming up, and like I've talked to a couple people and they may or may not come or whatever. Like there's other things that are important. I feel like for me, going to those events, meeting with you guys in person and other business owners and everyone in the group, like that's sort of just a very good. But that's a pitch for your event. But I feel like it's just
the events are awesome, but yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like for me, like that's just that. Because right now, to be honest, like I'm already losing focus. Like I've got sort of the projects that I've been trying to do in the 80% done. And so it's just the time wrapping them up, getting to the next event, getting recharged, coming up with a new vision for the next 3 months. And then like, I don't know. So
like what we want is that at the end of every week, every month, every quarter, every year, we can see we've made progress. And it's perfectionism that slows us down and stops us, trying to get things perfect, trying to get things right rather than continue to move forwards. And, you know, I shared that like we need to become really good at filtering the noise, filtering in the frustrations, filtering in all those opportunities, and just focusing on if I, you know, the question I often ask myself is if I can only do one thing right now, it would make the biggest impact in my business, that everything in my business stays the same, but I could just do one thing that makes the biggest impact. What would that one thing be? And that's what I do. What's that one thing? Because there's always going to be 100 things, a million things you can be doing, but what is that one core thing? If you just nail that, everything else will become a little bit easier.
Yeah, but that's so difficult to do because you've got so much noise. Like you have to step back.
But if business was easy, then everyone would be doing it and everyone would be succeeding, and that failure rate would be a lot more than you know, the success rate of businesses would be a lot more than 4%.
Yeah.
You know, and as you said, the real skill set is around, it's around like our inner game. It's not really the strategy and tactics. You know, that shit, you know, you can see it online. You know, the best strategy in the world, but if it's poorly executed because you've got some messed up belief systems or because you're trying to do a million things at once, you're just not going to achieve the success you want.
Yeah.
You know, which is why when you look at the Game Changers Genius model, it's like magnetize is the top part of the Genius model. Like how do we work on our mind, our heart, and our body and being, and align the three of them? Because if our head and our heart is aligned, like our intellect with our intuition, and we have a body that's functioning in vitality and health, like everything else is going to fall suit. Right? We then focus on, okay, well, how do we monetize the marketplace, attract the right type of prospects, convert them to sales, and deliver an outstanding job? Once we get that piece of the puzzle working, we then focus on, well, maximize. How do we set up the systems, the team, and the strategy to see our business grow the next 3, 5, 10, and 20 years? And those three core bits in the 9 accelerators is what rockets us past the 7-figure mark. And if you're struggling to grow past 7 figures, you haven't spent enough time working on those in that order, right? And they're in that order for a specific reason. You know, it's 8 figures that you start to focus on leveraging your time, your money, and your fulfillment that see you move forwards from there. It's a good point. Like a couple of the comments Dan shared before, he said it feels like the materialistic objects are like a metric for the feeling, and the emotional responses can be what's stopping you getting them. He's like, that dropped through. You know, it's so true. He also wanted to know that in hindsight, what did you learn about yourself during that partnership with that video guy? What was the key learning for you out of that?
I guess the key learning is sort of, you got to be careful what you want and how much you put into that, because you lose track of, like, you want something too much to work, and then you just get blinded to other stuff that's going on. So it's just keeping your eyes open at all times.
It's so true that if there's too strong of a desire, if there's too much desire for something, we get blindsided. Yeah, really good point. Really good point. So you kind of learnt to not necessarily want something so bad.
Yeah, well, especially if you do want something bad, to look at what else is going on and what's speaking against it. So yeah, for example, like get advice and ask people, what am I missing? Rather than just trying to be all excited on your own and miss how you're getting screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of seek others' advice, if not just to create contrast for your own feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt said, I've got heaps of stuff to do in business, and because of that, I don't complete anything on time. You just get so stressed to the point that there is other day-to-day tasks that get left behind, causing the growth to slow down in business. What advice would you give Matt? You know, from what I'm getting from him is that there's a lot of stuff going on, and then on top of a lot of stuff, you get the whirlwind of day-to-day business as well.
I think something that I do is I've got sort of a daily start of the day checklist. So I'll try to spend the first hour of my day in the business looking at my weekly goals, come up with 3 goals for the day that are in line with the 3 weekly goals. And the weekly goals are based on my quarterly projects.
Yeah.
And then just spend an hour working on those before I get into the day-to-day. And like just that practice, it gives you an hour when you're freshest to get some of the important stuff out of the way and then deal with the day-to-day. And I guess the other thing, depending on what kind of tasks it is, like, because there's heaps of tasks that you could outsource or someone on your team could do. So what are the tasks that are easy to get someone else to do, or that you might already have resources that someone can do those? So just identifying that, we're looking at the task audit and spending that half hour a week to do the task audit and figure out what can you delegate, what can you stop doing.
100%. Yeah, half an hour a week updating your task audit, making sure that you're delegating as much as you can, outsourcing it, and that when you're replacing that time with new things, that you keep it fresh on that. And then, as you said too, I think it's an awesome point. Like for me, I have a thing that I won't check my emails, I won't check messages in the morning until I've completed like my top 3 goals, pushes, projects for the day. So before I turn any of that shit on, it's like my 3 main things get done first. And then I allow the day to come to me, emails, messages, communication to the team. Because otherwise what happens is you start the day checking your emails, you spend the day fighting fires and putting out fires rather than spend the day moving the business forwards. And if you just spend that hour in the morning, you can make significant gains in moving the business forwards. So then you can spend the rest of the day fighting fires if you need to.
Yeah, I reckon one of the best things I've done in the last year is outsourced my emails. So Amanda and Joost, which are in the office here, basically check all the incoming emails and then assign them to me if I need to action anything. But again, I don't check them. So if there's something urgent that needs immediate attention, they have to let me know. And then otherwise, I'll check it once a day, sometimes every other day. And then just get to it when I have time rather than first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I love that. Anything last you want to share with the tribe?
No, I just think it's an epic community. Like I love the community, like the feedback, people sharing. Like it's good stuff. Like I don't think a lot of people have what we have, so I love this stuff. Yeah,
and very much the 3 agreements are such success criteria. You know, be quick to implement the learnings, the trainings. You know, perfection, project progress over perfection. Be quick to implement. Be quick to ask for help. The faster you reach out and ask for help, the faster you can get an answer and a solution to keep things moving forward. And I think that often what slows us down is not asking for help fast, quick enough. And number 3, share your lessons and learnings. You know, if you go through shit that you get out the other side, like share with the tribe what's going on, share your lessons, share your learnings, share your wins, because it allows others to learn from your mistakes and not go through the same, because we're all in business together and we're all here to succeed, and the more we can support each other in that, the faster that each of us can grow. So I totally agree. You guys are epic and love having you as part of our tribe. Awesome. All right, mate. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to wrap things up from my Cafe Melbourne side car park training. And a few of the guys said thanks, cheers. See you guys soon. Thanks so much for your time.
See ya. Thanks.